how's it going, guys? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find live coverage of the concerts that we get. Been posting a ton of interviews. The album reviews have been kind of few and far between, but I hope to try to get to as many as I can before the year's over with. Gonna try to do Crystal Lakes before the year's over with as well, and then some that I feel like I've missed out on. So if there's any that you liked this year and you feel like I haven't done a review of it and you'd like me to, either hit me up in the comments or email me. I'd love to listen to it, maybe give you some feedback on it. But posted Windrunner's album review last week, so check that out. If you like this band, I feel like you'll like that band as well. But tonight, we're going to be talking about the Parallels' new record, Weaver. So for those of you who aren't familiar about this band, I actually did an interview with them probably almost about a year ago now, prior to them signing to Invogue Records, and they've gotten a lot bigger since then, which is totally cool. I'm so proud of them. I'm so stoked to get this album a little bit early. Shouts to Mike from Earshot, as well as the Parallel in general, for helping me just kind of wrangle this together. But I'm going to go through each track, give you my thoughts and opinions on it, go through some pros and cons on the record, and then finish it out with an overall rating. So the first track is called Decipher. This one's a bit of a shorter one. There are two tracks off this record that are about under the 2-minute mark, but they slap, so I'm just gonna tell you that. But anyway, this track is one of my favorites for sure. You'll find a running theme about that throughout this review. But anyway, liking the sort of distant ethereal qualities of this track. It has a little bit of a darker tonality, which again is pretty much relevant throughout this entire record. I like the layered screams. I think that even back when I found out about them on Dreambound, I felt like they had a unique setup that they had going there. I know that Luke and Brett both did screams, but Brett also did cleans. And then most recently, Ron started doing cleans, which is their drummer, which I think is super sick. And if you haven't checked out the singles, please go do so. But getting back to this track, I think it works out well just because of the heavier nature of this track. It just starts off real heavy. There's no cleans. It's just all screams. And I like that that Brett handles most of the sort of fry and higher screamings, and Luke does more of the sort of mid level screams and also the lows. I think it's a great opener track. I really feel like it sets up the rest of the record in a great way. It's very... If you enjoyed this track, or if you enjoyed any of the singles, I feel like you'll enjoy the rest of this record. It's very much along the same lines. There's a few tracks that kind of, go out of the record, more outlier tracks, but in general, they kind of keep to the same sort of thing. So we're going to move into track number 2, which is Monochrome. This one kind of bleeds into Monochrome, Decipher does, but it still kind of carries that dissonant feeling, especially in the instrumentals. But I definitely feel like in terms of technicality prowess, this one is definitely a lot better. Brett and Brandon's guitar riffs are super awesome, ones that I feel like I wish I could write or even come up with, but really awesome stuff. The chorus is probably one of my favorite parts of the song. It just has this awesome melodicness to it, and I think that Brett's singing and almost kind of yell, very similar to Sam Carter of Architects, has this beautiful just kind of like rasp to it, paired with Ron's vocals, which honestly I feel like takes the cake on this track. I think in tandem together they work very well. I would love to hear more harmonies throughout the entire record, which is one of my gripes about it, but I love what they did in this one. And I think that just on top of that, he does some really great clean tracks, clean vocals. He's also drumming, which is insane. I can't wait to hear them play any of these songs live. I saw them last year up in Toronto play a few songs, so I'd love to hear more. Definitely would love to hopefully see them in 2019 on the East Coast. But the ending, probably one of my favorites out of the singles for sure. I think it really just hits like a truck, and I love that about this track. So we're going to move into track number 3, which is Encryption. This one is another favorite. Again, I feel like you're going to get the run of the answers of this one, but the first verse is just so chaotic. I think it borrows a lot from math rock. I feel like, to me, it borrows a lot from like Dillinger, Misery Signals, Old After Image, Reflections, things, Structures. Those sorts of bands have that sort of dissonant layering, and I think that they obviously borrow a lot from those bands. The guitar work, again, on this track, more so than I'd say in Monochrome, is even crazier. I love it. And I think that, again, getting back with the whole screaming thing, I like that Brett and Luke have this really awesome dynamic with them. He has, again, takes the higher, Luke takes some of the lower screams, Brett takes some of the higher screams, and I think it really just adds this nice layer in the track. Anytime I listen to any of the songs that they've done, I like just the separation of the two, and I think it really, it really pulls your ear to both of them together and that sort of combined sound. So I really think that that's awesome. I like that Ron comes in a little bit later with some clean vocals as well. I think it starts off nuts in terms of just guitar work, instrumental work. I think it becomes a little bit more melodic as the song finishes out, and I think that that's a really cool aspect and just kind of like way of going about the song that I think really sets this one apart from a lot of the other ones, is that it just starts really nuts, really crazy, really chaotic, and then it becomes more melodic, and it just becomes more beautiful as the song progresses. So we're gonna move into track number 4, which is Chimera. This one is another one of my favorites. It happens to be another single. They released a music video for this one not too long ago as well, and the riffs on this one, A+, love them. The highlight of the track, again, is Ron's drumming. I think that just the way that he's able to transition from sort of almost like blast beat sort of drum parts to the fills where he has more of a rhythmic sort of pattern going on. I think that his drumming is just really, really, really underrated in this track. And I think there's a few other tracks that I feel like his drumming is really underrated, but you can really hear more of the technicality, more of the faster parts of this song, and they're obviously highlighted by Ron's part. I think at the 2 minutes and 10-second mark to around the 2 minutes and 30-second mark is just a brutal breakdown. They really know how to lay down the brutal breakdowns, especially in this record. There's one particular song that just, there's this breakdown that you will not expect, and I'm so excited for people to check that one out because it's not released yet, and it is a gem and a half. So I love it. The transitions between just the grooves and just the more technical parts are super fluid. Obviously, they borrow a lot from mathcore. I was gonna say math rock, mathcore, and just the transitions of that, just being able to kind of switch between more of the more like fluid parts than the more like technical, more like blast beats and intricate drumming parts and guitar work. And I think that this one highlights a lot of that aspect of the band. So we're gonna move into track number 5, which is Time Tunnel. This was actually one of the first songs that I had ever listened to the band. I found out about them on Dreambound. Go check out that YouTube channel. They are phenomenal. They always have really killer bands, and I always find out about awesome bands through them. So just gotta show them some love. But this is another single that had been released. I don't know if it's released through Invogue yet or not, but I know that this is out there. You can listen to it, and it's one of my favorites as well, just because I feel like I have that sort of, love for it because it's one of the first songs that I listened to him. But if you've been waiting for one of those heavier tracks to hit, this one is definitely one of them. I think that this one because it has pretty much no cleans. I think towards the end there's maybe like a little bit, I'd say maybe about like 10 or 20% max of the song is clean, and most of it's just all screaming. This one brings more of that sort of genty, more mathcore vibe, and I sort of feel like the screaming on the track is just really awesome. No pun intended. I think the 2 screamers are unparalleled. I think it just really works into the beast of this track. I think that just at the breakdown at that one part, I love just the dives during the breakdown. I love the guitar work on that. I think it's really cool. I like that sort of like, I guess it's very dissonant. I love the dissonant sound with the sort of heavier breakdowns. I think it really just accents it. It makes it more just brutal. It makes it more heavy, and I love that about it. So definitely another great track to check out. So we're gonna move into track number 6, which is Gloom. This one's one of my favorites as well. Again, track record, I feel like you're gonna get onto it at least at this point. But this one is very different from everything that they've released so far. I'd say probably the closest approximation to this track would be similar to Wanderlust, which is really cool. Another track that I'll be talking about in a minute, but I think the instrumentals also borrow a lot from Swancore, that sort of style of music, and just more of a post-hardcore sort of vibe to it, which is really interesting. I love the chord phrasing on this track. It feels very more along like jazzy sort of like vibes of this track, which is definitely cool. It's one of the more unique tracks off the record. I'd say that every time I listened to this record, I knew I was on track number 6 once I got to Gloom, which is totally cool. And I like that this one features more of Brett's cleans and sort of yelling style. I think it works. However, I would have loved to hear some Ron's vocals and just melodies on this tracks, and even almost harmonies. I think that would have worked out super well, and I think it would have been a tight kind of just addition to the track. I really feel like Ron's vocals are so good. I know he downplays them all the time, but I think it is really good shit, and I love it. And I'm also liking the more melodic nature of the tracks. A lot of the ones that I talked about before have been more along the heavier side. This one's still heavy, but I would say it takes a little bit more of a back seat to the more melodicness of this track, which I definitely like. I feel like there's pretty much a shift after this song into more melodic stuff, and then towards the end it has more of a blend of both. So definitely like this one a lot. One that you should check out once the record comes out. So we're moving to track number 7, which is Wanderlust, one of the singles that have been released. It happens to be one of my favorites as well. I would say out of all of the singles, it's got to be one of my favorites. I'd say maybe a close second is like Time Tunnel and Chimera, but all of the singles have been really awesome, and I think that they really kind of, show the whole spectrum of the record for sure. I like the back and forth vocals. I think it shows off and highlights a lot of the best aspects of the Parallel for sure. I think that, the way that Brett does his cleans is not like an atypical clean singer. And I definitely dig that. I think it's a unique aspect of the band that is really awesome. I think that this track borrows a lot from Gloom, or maybe vice versa. I'm pretty sure that this song was recorded and written before Gloom was out, so I feel like they borrow a lot from each other, which is totally awesome. Definitely more melodic as well. Great energy. And the lead guitar is absolutely understated. I think that Brandon does a phenomenal job with leads on this track. He's done a phenomenal job throughout the record, but I feel like this one highlights a lot of his great sort of like tappy or sort of more beautiful delayed kind of clean licks that I definitely like about this track a lot. So we're gonna move into track number 8, which is Thread. This one features Kyle Anderson of the After Image. This one is a solid track. I like the feature. I think that they did a good job. However, I would love to hear more of Kyle's clean singing. I feel like he does a clean line and then he does a bunch of screaming, which is totally fine. I think he does some really good screams. However, I think his cleans just would have made the track more unique, would have made it more memorable, and I would love to hear harmony parts with the guest feature. I think that would have been sick. I think it would have really brought the song together a lot more. And I think that as well as that, I think for me it would have been great as a replay value. I feel like this one is honestly one of the weaker tracks off the record. It's not a bad track, but it's one that didn't speak to me as much as, like Time Tunnel or Chimera or Gloom or Wanderlust. It's just missing that sort of catchy bug that I feel like the other ones definitely have for sure. So, and his part comes in at around the 1 minute and 35 second mark to around the 1:55 second mark. He does mainly screams after that one clean part. So I feel like he kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. So we're gonna move into track number 9, which is Ego Death. This one is one of my favorites as well, and this one is a heavy one, or at least I thought it was going to be primarily a heavy one. However, most of the track starts off very dissonant, and it just becomes more melodic over time, which I feel like again resonates a lot with I think it is Encryption. That track also kind of did the same sort of play out in that song, which is definitely cool. I like that they borrowed a lot of aspects from that. But the 1 minute and 50-second mark to around the 2 minutes and 12-second mark, that part was so unexpected and I loved it. It was so freaking awesome. So excited for you guys to check that one out. It's so cool. It's definitely one of the most melodic tracks off the record, but also has some of the heaviest parts off the record in one song, which I think is really interesting, really unique. And I think it kind of it's like a 50, it's almost like a coin flip in terms of the first half of the song is just real brutal and real heavy, and then the second half of the song is very melodic and very beautiful. So I think it's really interesting how they are able to kind of find those two qualities and mash them together, not in a nice way, but it works somehow. So we're going to move it into track number 10, which is Moriah. This one is one of my favorites as well, and I think this one definitely took me by surprise upon first listen, just because it's very melodic, it's very soft, there isn't really a heaviness to it, except for maybe about like halfway through the song. This one is one of the shorter songs, like I mentioned earlier in Decipher. These two are definitely on the shorter side, but it's a short but sweet track, and I love it. I think it's so different to hear more cleans on this song, and I love it. I think Ron and Brett really kind of gel super well together in this song. I'd say the song is primarily cleans. I think there's one bit of screaming, but mostly all cleans. I think that this one, if they did another track like this on the record, that would have been awesome, maybe for future releases. But I definitely like the qualities and the aspects of that sort of Ephraim clean sounding stuff, and I hope that they incorporate it in future tracks. Even if they are heavier, I'd love to hear maybe that would be sick. So we're gonna move into track number 11, which is Wax Wings. This one is another favorite of mine. I say that this one kind of has that sort of Architects Invent Animate sort of vibe to it. The lows from Luke, oof, they are just so good. Love his lows. I think they are super awesome. I think that Brett definitely channels his inner Sam Carter. It feels very much along the lines of Architect's new record, Holy Hell, for sure, which is definitely cool. There aren't really any sort of insane breakdowns. There aren't any really kind of like extra stuff that you would expect from this band, but however, I love that it's so straightforward. I like how it's executed so well and just so, you know, eloquently done, that I feel like it doesn't need that. If I wanted to listen to that, I could go listen to it. So I like that they really kind of kept very basic to this track, but they were able to execute it in a way that I feel like they did the song in a really awesome way. So we're gonna move into the last track. Track number 12, Oracle. This one is one of my favorites. Again, track record. But this one I think is probably by far their most unique record, I'd say, or unique track off the record. I think it's definitely the black sheep of the record. It feels very much influenced by Era. I would say more along the lines of Augment for sure. I like that there's some cool kind of rhythmic breaks throughout the song. The lead guitar is super awesome. I feel like this one is definitely a bit different. It kind of straddles more of that clean vibe as opposed to the screaming. But there is a good amount of screaming. I'd say maybe 60-40 on this song, without a doubt. And I like just the expansiveness of this song. I feel like if they were able to carry on and maybe do another song or two like this one in a future release, I'd love to hear it, because I feel like you can definitely expand upon this. Clean wise, I feel like this is their most experimental. You can hear a lot of falsettos. You can hear more of the high singing, which is definitely cool. And there is this insane, let me just tell you, insane breakdown at the 2 minutes and 16-second mark to around the 2 minutes and 43-second mark. Holy shit, I can't tell you how unexpected. I mean, they build up to it, but it is just so good. Like, it is so heavy, and the first time I listened to it, I literally got home, put my car in park, rewinded it, and listened to it again, and I was just floored by how good this was. This one is definitely a unique track. Great way to end off the record, and definitely one that I'm excited for most people to check out on this one. So some pros and cons that I have about the record. I love the 3 vocal prowess of this record. I think it's awesome. I like that they have 2 screamers. It really adds a great dynamic to the record. It also adds a uniqueness too, because Luke handles most of the sort of lows and mids, while Brett kind of handles more of that sort of cleans, that yell, and that sort of Fry high screaming that I feel like they cover the whole gambit of it. Ron adds this beautiful, clean aspect to the song as well, and I'd love to hear him be incorporated in more songs upon future releases. Rhythmically, it's very interesting, but also not into the point where it's off-putting. I feel like there are some bands that kind of have that sort of, you know, more mathcore-y sort of vibe, and it's a little bit more off-putting to me. Just speaking on my own, you know, obviously it's my review, so but I feel like this one really kind of stays true to more of that metalcore vibe, but also still bringing a lot of aspects of mathcore, but also progressive metalcore. It kind of has that sort of, you know, melting pot of all of that in there. This album is heavy, but also equally as melodic and also surprisingly catchy. I think going back and listening to this record probably about between 10 or 15 times now, I've really kind of gotten a feel and an idea of how I feel about these songs, and overall I love how just, you know, transcendent they are. They're heavy, they're melodic, they're fast-paced, they're a little bit slower, they're a little bit more melodic. They have, you know, some beautiful qualities to it, but they also have some really dissonant vibes to it as well, and I like that they kind of cover the gambit of that. Some cons that I have about the record: I need some more Ron in my life. I need some more Ron in this album in general or in future releases. Again, I feel like his cleans were kind of underutilized. There were some songs I felt like he did a phenomenal job on, like Oracle. I'd say Monochrome was definitely another one as well, but I'd love to hear more of his cleans. I think that he really brings a unique aspect to it, to the record, and, you know, I think paired with Brett, I think they've really kind of hit the mark on that. And then just speaking on the terms of clean vocals, I'd love for them to introduce like harmonies. I know that that is like just like next level shit, but I would love for that to happen. I think that that'd be awesome, and maybe they can incorporate it in future releases. But my overall rating for the Parallels Weaver, I'm going to be giving it a 9.8 out of 10. It's definitely one that I feel like you should go check out. It's one of my favorite heavier releases of this year, and that's saying a lot, being in the ranks of Silent Planet, Architects, Fit for a King, Beartooth. I mean, I guess Beartooth's not like that. I mean, they're heavy, but not like that sort of heavy. Silent Planet, all that sort of stuff. Greyhaven. I've really come to love this record, and I can't wait to listen to it even more. You guys can listen to the record when it comes out this Friday. I don't know the date. I'll try to put the date somewhere if I remember, but go check it out. Go check out the Parallel. Links are in the description. Let me know what you think about the record. Let me know what you think about the singles. I'd really like to know what your thoughts are on the record. Congrats to the Parallel on signing to Invogue, and congrats on the new record. Can't wait to see you guys hopefully in the foreseeable future. But if you enjoyed this review, please subscribe, hit that thumbs up. It goes a long way. My name is Brandon. We hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps out our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com, and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.